Governor of Meru County, and pursuant to Standing Order 82, to report to the Senate within 10 days of its appointment, and on whether or not it finds the particulars of the allegations against the governor to have been substantiated. Mr. Speaker, while moving this motion, I want to make it quite evident that
Honorable Senators, may the minority whip be heard in silence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, while moving this motion, I'm cognizant of the fact that an impeachment process is a process that will determine the future of an individual. Mr. Speaker, I've sat here through various impeachment processes, some of them which have been carried out through plenary, some of them which are carried out through committees. And the reason why I strongly feel that moving this House to consider adopting a committee to investigate the allegation is because, Mr. Speaker, listening to you read
should not be referred at any given point. And Mr. Speaker, can you rule the mover of the motion, Senate Minority Whip, to be totally out of order by trying to engage on the form, substance, and the process, even invoking that control of budget will be invited, the documentation. I thought, Mr. Speaker, you guided Solomonically through the wisdom of Solomon by saying that it is only the procedure and the process. Could it be called out of order, Mr. Speaker, sir? Thank you.
Honorable Minority Whip, just confine your moving speech as you move this motion to the merits of having a special committee as opposed to the plenary. Just convince your colleagues
thank you, Mr.
why you feel a special committee
thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr.
is more
Speaker,
effective compared to
Mr. Speaker, the Hansard will bear me witness. I will not stand here and assume to know the merits and demerits of the charges of the impeachment. Mr. Speaker, what I referred to is solely what you read as the charges. And the only way that I'm trying to persuade my colleagues is to be able to think critically about the position that they'll be given in this House to analyze the evidence which shall be induced in this House by the Assembly as well as by the county governor who is now being accused here. Mr. Speaker, I have demonstrated clearly, and this is why I want to plead with my brother, particularly Senator from Nandi, because we have sat in these chambers together. We have looked at documents and documents. We have played some videos here. Sometimes they don't play very well. When we were impeaching other governors, if you compare apples to apples, Mr. Speaker, you will find that the only time you can be able to give justice to an impeachment process is when distinguished men and women, 9 of them, 11 of them, who have been proposed, who we are proposing today, sit down, go through the evidence so that, even though this is a political process, Mr. Speaker, you clearly indicated, and this is as per Article 125 of the Constitution of Kenya, that whenever we sit, we have the same powers as the High Court. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to persuade this House, both sides of the divide, to consider giving these 11 distinguished senators an opportunity to go through the evidence. Mr. Speaker, I note clearly. Now, what is the point of order?
Proceed and conclude, Senator. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I note clearly that the majority side proposed the members who sat on the previous committee. There is logic there, Mr. Speaker, because they got an opportunity to go through the evidence which were adduced by the Assembly when they were impeaching the governor. Mr. Speaker, I see wisdom there. I know, Mr. Speaker, that during the impeachment of Governor Wambora, the Senate of the Republic of Kenya had a committee of 11, And when the governor was brought back here...
Order, honorable senators. Let us make progress. Proceed, Senator Ledama. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When, Mr. Speaker, please protect me from...
Senator, you're fully protected. Can you proceed,
Mr. Speaker.
please?
Mr. Speaker, I would wish that my brother would be able to go and take the Hansard of this House, because what I'm saying is factual. When Senator Boni Halwale, and I'm very happy to see him being proposed here to sit in this committee, and trust me, Mr. Speaker, this House will decide. And the beauty of this process going through our committee is because the Senate will be given a second chance, to be able to have a bite on the cherry, Mr. Speaker. Because the moment it goes to the committee, it will also be...
Honorable senators, order.
You
will make those points when you're debating.
I'm solely moving.
Proceed.
And I want to convince you...
Reserve your comments to the contribution.
Mr. Speaker, the beauty of me moving is that you have the liberty of saying yes or no. You can actually be able to say, I do not support the committee way,
proceed,
which will be
Senator.
the proper. So, Mr. Speaker, for me to be able to make out my case, I want to persuade senators. You represent 47 counties. You serve in committees. When you sit in these committees, most of the time you go through volumes of documents to be able to interrogate governors. If you do not take the time to be able to look at the evidence properly, you will be doing this House a disservice. Mr. Speaker, I sat on this same chair when we were removing Governor Mike Mbovi Songo. And on that particular day, Mr. Speaker, the senators did not even have a chance to interrogate the governor who was being removed. The two lawyers made their cases there, and then after that, we went on camera. After going on camera, we came back in and we voted. I want to beseech these members, honorable members who are here. Well, I'm not discussing on the merits or demerits of the case. All I'm saying is that I'd like to persuade you to consider giving these 11... Mr. Speaker, can you please protect me from the back and forth shouts from
Senator
Cherargei?
You only speak through the chair, so don't engage your colleague directly.
Mr. Speaker, I think we're all grown up.
Just proceed, Senator Ledama.
So, Mr. Speaker, I want to plead with you that ultimately the 47 delegations will make their choice. They will decide whether to impeach, to confirm the impeachment of the governor, or whether to give the governor another second chance to continue. The only thing that I want to persuade you today is that for the history of this nation, and also for the importance of this House, whenever you point a finger, remember that there is a finger which is pointing right back at you. And the impeachment process is a very painful process to go through. And it is important for us to know the consequences and also the unintended consequences. I don't really care how anyone votes. I think all of us will vote based on their own conscience. What I care is on the process of coming up to that vote. And this is why I want to persuade you that a committee will be able to give you and yourself and myself an opportunity to read a report that 11 distinguished members of this House would have already carried out an investigation on. They'll be able to tell you whether those charges have been substantiated or they have not been substantiated. Number two, Mr. Speaker, anything we do in this House goes on record. I'm very happy to propose the committee way because of two reasons, so that I can be able to request my distinguished Senator Asigi to second. When we go through the committee, it will not be sitting here and listening to two lawyers. It will be our colleagues telling us that we went through the documentation and we found A, B, C, and D. And based on this, these are our observations and these are our recommendations. That is issue number one. Number two, Mr. Speaker, it will also give us an opportunity to be able to show Kenyans and the world who are watching that the Senate, even though it is not a court of law, can be able to carry out the functions. Please, let me finish, and then you can call your point of orders.
Senator Chirenge, what is your point of order? The very last point of order on this matter.
Mr. Speaker, I hope it's not the last for the day. I have several. Mr. Speaker, under Standing Order 105 of the Standing Orders and Standing Order 80, is it in order for Senator Ledama or Kina, the mover of motion, to mislead us and the public that when it goes to special committee, it is the only time the feedback is only through our members, yet he knows very well as a senior ranking member that when a governor appears through plenary, he or she has an option of either representing herself or himself or through legal representatives, Mr. Speaker. Is it in order to mislead the country that the only point, as per Standing 105, Mr. Speaker? No, stop pointing
Senator
at me. We are not in somewhere maandamano, my friend.
Senator
Stop
Sifuna.
pointing at me.
Senator Chirenge. Senator Fonandi. No, Senator Sifuna, it is only the chair who determines whether a point of order stands or is overruled. So you've made your point of order. Kindly take your seat.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Take your seat. Senator Ledama, proceed. That does not warrant being called a point of order. Just proceed and conclude.
Mr. Speaker, those are points of annoyance. Because, Mr. Speaker, I am not discussing the merits or demerits of the case. I'm only trying to demonstrate to my colleagues why I'm proposing the committee way. I want to plead with you to listen to me, give me an ear. Ultimately, you will make the decision. Because for me today, having been considering myself as a ranking member of this House, I've sat through maybe 4 or 5 impeachment processes. The reason why I'm suggesting to you that you should consider passing this resolution is because I have experience. Mr. Speaker, it will be upon the 47 delegations to make a decision on whichever way they want to deal with this matter. I've told you the advantages of a committee, and I've also told you the disadvantages of a plenary. The reason why I believe, and this is the point that I was trying to prosecute earlier, that a committee is which would be able to give the people of Meru and the governor justice, is because as we sit here, as per Article 125, we are sitting with the powers that we have are quasi-judicial. We have the same powers as the High Court. So when you make a decision, it is imperative and important that we become future-centric, in the sense that whatever decision we make today, when we stand here to defend whichever way, either to send the governor home or to save the governor, it is something which will go on record, and your children and your future generation will be able to look back and say, that house. Because, Mr. Speaker, I consider this house the house of union, the house of reason. This is the only house, Mr. Speaker, where a senator from Lamu, who has got maybe 120,000 people, will sit, 90,000, will sit with the senator of Nairobi, who has got about 5 million people, and each one of them will have 1 vote. That is why I say it is a house of union. We are called upon, Mr. Speaker, to oversight our counties. And that is the reason why we are the court that will decide, will be able to try. Because one thing I want to remind my colleagues is that we do not impeach a governor. The Senate does not impeach a governor. The governor is impeached at the county assembly. The only thing we do is to confirm the charges. We are sitting as judges. And that is why I'm pleading with you that for us to be able to understand this process very well, I'm pleading with you that we go the committee way. trust distinguished men and women who represent counties and who represent the Senate of the Republic of Kenya to go through the documentation, come back and tell us, colleagues, distinguished senators, this is what we have found. We do it very well. I'm one of those people who believe that sitting here, and you will see, you will go through the experience if you choose to go the plenary way. You will get bored here, you will walk out, the two lawyers will rant, they will say whatever they want to say, you know. And you know, Senator Cherargei, through the Speaker, as I conclude.
Order, Senator Cherargei, Senator Gloria.
As you will have an opportunity to make your case.
We are not in a soccer match where you can boo when you don't like the player.
You know,
this is the plenary. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, I now understand why a former colleague said that if, let me quit it there. It is important for us to reason. And I want to plead with you, as I call my colleague, the distinguished Senator Asige, to be able to second this motion, to consider the committee way. Because today you're sitting there, tomorrow you'll be a governor. And when you are governor, you'd want to be given an opportunity to be heard and to be given an opportunity for you to be able to be asked questions and represent. Finally, Mr. Speaker, as I move, I hope that wisdom will prevail and that the distinguished senator who was told that if the president was thinking like him will not have a country will actually see sense in all this that I'm trying to persuade you. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move and request none other than Senator Sigi to second.